গুরুমুখ আর না করি হো মনে আশা, আর না করি হো মনে আশা, করি মনে আশা। শ্রী গুরু চরণে রতি, এই সেই উত্তম গতি। শ্রী গুরু চরণ যে প্রসাদে পুরে সর্ব আশা, যে প্রসাদে যে প্রসাদে পুরে সর্ব আশা, চক্ষু দান দিল যে জন্মে জন্মে প্রভু সেই, চক্ষু দান দিল যে জন্মে জন্মে প্রভু সেই, দিব্য জ্ঞান হৃদয় প্রকাশিত, দিব্য জ্ঞান হৃদয় প্রকাশিত, প্রেম ভক্তি যাহা হইতে অবিদ্যা বিনাশ যাতে, প্রেম ভক্তি যাহা হইতে অবিদ্যা বিনাশ যাতে, বেদে গায় যাহার চরিত, যাহার চরিত, বেদে গায় যাহার চরিত, শ্রী গুরু করুণা সিন্ধু অধম জনার বন্ধু, শ্রী গুরু করুণা সিন্ধু অধম জনার বন্ধু, অধম জনার বন্ধু, লোকনাথ লোকের জীবন, লোকনাথ লোকের। আহা প্রভু করো দয়া, দেহ মোরে পদ ছায়া, আহা প্রভু করো দয়া, আহা প্রভু করো দয়া, দেহ মোরে পদ ছায়া। এবে যশ ঘোষক ত্রিভুবন, দুই পদে লইলু শরণ, শ্রীলা প্রভুপাদ পতিত পাবন, শ্রীলা গুরুদেব পতিত পাবন, গুরুদেব পতিত পাবন। জয় প্রভুপদা জয় প্রভুপদা জয় প্রভুপদা জয় প্রভুপদা। नमो विष्णुपदाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine Namah. Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschata Deshatarine. Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi. Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Jai Shri Krishna. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Jaya Radha, Syamasundar Radha, Syamasundar Shri Radhe. Jaya Radha, Madhava Radha, Madhava Shri Radhe. Jaya Gauranitai, Jaya Gauranitai, Gauranitai, Jaya Gauranitai. Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada. Jaya Jaya Gurudev, 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 Jaya Jaya Gurudev. Nitai Gaura Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitai Gaura Hari Bol.
Arja Astatara Satasi Srimad His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki, Ananta Koti Vaishnavrinda Ki, Shri Radha Syamasundar Ki, Shri Radha Madhava Ki, Shri Gaura Hari Ki, Samveda Bhakta Vrinda Ki, Nitai Gaur Premanandi. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunjabi Adi Madhava Kunjabi Jaya Radha Madhava Kunjabi Adi Gopi Jana Balabha Girivara Dhari Gopi Jana Balabha Girivara Dhari Jasodanandana Brajachanaranjana Jasodanandana Brajachanaranjana Jamunatira Bhanachadi Jamunatira Bhanachadi Jaya Radha Madhava Kunjabi Adi Madhava Kunjabi Jaya Radha Madhava Kunjabi Adi Madhava Kunjabi Adi Gopi Jana Balabha Girivara Dhari Gopi Jana Balabha Girivara Dhari Jasodanandana Brajachanaranjana Jasodanandana Brajachanaranjana Jamuna Tira Bhanachadi Jamunatira Bhanachadi Jaya Radha Madhava Kunjabi Adi Madhava Kunjabi Jaya Radha Madhava Kunjabi Adi Madhava Kunjabi Paramahamsa Paridharaja Astatara Satasi Srimad His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Ananta Koti Vaishnavrinda Ki Gaur Premanandi Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Udirayat. Canto 3, Chapter 18, Text number 9. Paranusaktam tapaniya kalpam Mahagadam kanchana chitradangsham Marmam yabikshnam pratidandam duruktair Prachandamanyo prahasamtam bhabhashe Parano shaktam tapaniyo pakalal. Oh boy, try again. Paranusaktam tapani yopakalpam Mahagadam kanchana chitradangsham Marmanya bhikshnam pratu dandam duruktai Prachandamanyo prahasyam tam bhabhase Mahagadam kanchana chitradangsham Samtam babhase Mahagadam kanchana chitradangsham Marmaya bhiksham pratidandam duruktai Prachandamanyuprahasam tam pabhase. Anushaktam tapaniya pakalpam. Mahagadam kanchana chittadangsham. Para, from behind. Anusaktam, who followed very closely. Tapaniya ukalpanam, upakalpam, who made a considerable amount of gold ornaments. Mahagadam, with a great mace. Kanchana, golden. Chitra, beautiful. Damsham, armor. Marmani, the core of the heart. Abhikshnam, constantly. Pratudantam, piercing. Duruktai, by abusive words. Prachanda, terrible. Manyuho, anger. Prahasan, laughing. Tam, to him. Babhashe, he said. The demon who had a wealth of ornaments, bangles, and beautiful golden armor on his body chased the Lord from behind with a great mace. The Lord tolerated his piercing ill words, but in order to reply to him, he expressed his terrible anger. In order to reply to him, he expressed his terrible anger. So he's going to speak next. Sri Bhagavatam Vacha. Purport: the Lord could have chastised the demon immediately while the demon was deriding the Lord with ill words, but the Lord tolerated him to please the demigods and to show that they should not be afraid of demons while discharging their duties. Therefore, his toleration was displayed mainly to drive away the fears of the demigods, who should know that the Lord is always present to protect them. The demon's derision of the Lord was just like the barking of dogs. The Lord did not care about it, since he was doing his own work in delivering the earth from the midst of the water. Materialistic demons always possess large amounts of gold in various shapes, and they think that a large amount of gold, physical strength, and popularity can save them from the wrath of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Battle scenes. And like one of Krishna's many qualities is he's clever. He can, with one thing, he can do many things. So he has his own emotion, transcendental emotion, of course, and fit for the circumstance. His transcendental emotion is appropriate for the circumstance because such a person needs to be chastised, and so he exhibits anger so that the one deserving to be chastised should be prepared as coming, although the demon is chasing him with a club and saying insulting words. To balance, the demon should be chastised And there's an appropriate anger from the side of the Supreme Lord to deal with the offender. Simultaneously balancing everything, he's helping the demigods understand nothing to worry about. Barking dog, don't worry about it. I don't worry about it. You shouldn't worry about it. Because we just dealt with this yesterday evening. It's similar to Krishna speaking in the situation of, Sukadeva Goswami speaking, because Maharaj Parikshit is disturbed. Maharaj Parikshit is disturbed. And so he doesn't want Maharaj Parikshit to be disturbed because Putana has gone to do her nefarious activity and so forth and so on and so forth and so on. No reason to be disturbed. Krishna's there. Putana can't do anything to harm Krishna, because the concern is, of course, there's all the other living entities. One might say the innocent. One might say other than innocent. Anyway, Shukadeva Goswami wanted Maharaj Parikshit to not be disturbed. And so he pacified him, no worries. And although that's not being communicated explicitly here, the personality of Godhead, he's going to let Hiranyaksha have it, but these insulting words and chasing with a club and behaving like a monster, the Supreme Personality of Godhead is not exhibiting, at this moment at least, his anger, because there's the second message, no worries, pipsqueak. Really can't harm me, no worries at all. Now the demon is thinking otherwise. Although Lord Varaha has manifested this amazing form, and Lord Varaha has done what an ordinary person can't do, he's ordinary. And therefore I can chase him with a club and I can say insulting words. This question came up the other day. Some persons just don't get it. Even there's ample, reasonable indication this isn't an ordinary person. Again, similar to what we discussed yesterday evening, what Hiranyakashipu did to try to harm Prahlad, this and that and the other thing, a long list. Nothing worked. Who is this boy? He, Hiranyakashipu, the most powerful person in the universe at the time, even more powerful than Hiranyaksha, can't harm his little boy. And his behavior, Hiranyakashipu's behavior, brought about his own destruction because of his pride and his sense of the strength and the austerities and the wealth and everything, the power, fame. He's invincible, he thought. So Hiranyaksha is similarly thinking, invincible. I'll show this, whatever this creature is. Foolish, fearless, foolish. So the personality Godhead is simultaneously dealing with the demigods. So that looks like partiality, right? But he's just reciprocating with their regard for him. So that's not partiality. Prabhupada explains like this. I like his explanation. Supposing there is a mother and father that have multiple children, and they have affection for all their multiple children, but amongst their multiple children, one is particularly affectionate. So that the parents may show reciprocal affection to that child that has particular affection. And it's not partiality, it's just natural. They're reciprocating with that particular child's affection. And so they show special affection. But it's not partiality. He's our favorite. I mean, some parents may be thinking like that, but in an ideal sense, it's just reciprocation. So, yayatamam prapadyante, according to living entities, prapadyante, or their surrender or their regard, then there's different dealings. And the demigods, they're devotees. And they're not only devotees, they're very exalted devotees. And because they're very exalted devotees, they're invested with powers to do what they do. And the powers to do what they do can be withdrawn. But if they use them properly, they're not likely to be withdrawn. And the Lord wants to reciprocate with them. So they're feeling some anxiety. Here comes Hiranyaksha chasing after our Lord. So he wants them to be peaceful. So he's not at this moment yet exhibiting his anger, but he's not even responding to the harsh words and being chased by a club. And he's doing yet another activity, rescuing the earth, floating the earth. It would seem, to a sensible person, that Hiranyaksha is not a sensible person. A sensible person would say, if I can make the earth planet fall out of orbit and plunge to the bottom of the Garbhodak ocean, and another entity can rescue the entire earth from the bottom of the Garbhodak ocean and float the earth on water, this is not an ordinary person, but he's thinking ordinary person. Doesn't make sense. So stubborn obstinacy takes something that should make sense and doesn't get sense out of it. So some demons, we had this discussion yesterday evening, some demons are just hardcore. And they have to be dealt with as Lord Vraha did, with a slap. And the slap was a lethal one. And by that lethal slap, he relieved him of all the reactions to sinful activities. And sinful activities put so many people in distress. I mean, what happened to the living entities that were on the earth when he caused the earth to go out of orbit? A lot of living entities got plunged into the Garbhodak ocean. Doesn't say specifically, but one can assume they drowned. So that's a lot of sinful activity, a lot of murders. And one slap of the Lord and he's relieved of the reactions. Doesn't mean the tendency is gone, because he comes back again and comes back again. But the reactions are, the prarabdha karma is relieved by the Lord's giving him a slap. A hard enough slap that he dies. the overall picture, the purpose of the Vedas is to know Krishna. Vedas desire, sarvair aham eva vedyo. The purpose of the Vedas is to know Krishna. And Krishna is everything. So Krishna includes his expansions, his energies, his spiritual and material potencies. To know Krishna means to know everything. So how are you going to know everything? But there's something of everything. There's some principles that are introduced in other chapters that's not specifically the details of Krishna, but it's Krishna's expansions, like Lord Radha. And then part of Krishna is the material energy, and part of the material energy is this demoniac nature, the divine and demoniac. Both natures come from Krishna. So this is his interaction with the demoniac nature, which he gave facility to. He gave facility to a demoniac nature because there's free will. And some choose this, and some choose that. And so the dealings with the demigods and the dealings with the demons are different, appropriate for their regard for him. It gets a little complicated, but the principle is quite simple. Like one of the Chatur Shloki verses from Canto 2, like the whole section, those 4 verses, is a principle-based discussion of forms of the Lord in matter, forms of the Lord in spirit, and when he manifests the material creation, there's a very nice metaphor. Just like a spider creates a web from the fluid that's within the spider, and from the mouth of the spider comes the fluid, and then he weaves a web. And then the spider moves around his web, going here, going there, and at least the verse indicates spiders can withdraw the web back into their body. And so Krishna extends the material creation from his potencies, and he moves about and does things within his creation, and then withdraws the creation. And so all of these different things, if understood properly, it's all just part of the whole big picture of knowing Krishna, including the divine and demoniac nature, and how the Supreme Lord interacts with the divine and demoniac nature corresponding to their divineness and their demoniacness. And what's the purpose of all of that? The purpose of all of that is when one understands the greatness or the totality, to some degree at least, the totality of Krishna, it's an impetus to take shelter of Krishna. As the saying goes, to know Krishna is to love him. So information about the various dealings of Krishna in different avatar forms and the whole of the Bhagavatam leading up to the 10th canto, it's to enhance knowing Krishna in his totality, and then his direct special feature of appearing personally and engaging in his activities that tell us more about him. That's the benefit of hearing from Shukadeva Goswami. One who knows Krishna can tell us all about Krishna, or Vyasadeva told Shukadeva, and then Vyasadeva knows all about Krishna. So associating with such persons, Vyasadeva or Shukadev, particularly the Shukadev message in Srimad Bhagavatam, gives us very confidential understandings. And they're just, I'll end, where is there such literature in the world? Where is there such literature? And so the passages from the Bhagavatam have their counterpart in other Vedic texts and other histories, for example, and some we've been reading. Some are embedded in very simple form in the Upanishads without the details of the Leela, and then the details of the Leela and the different truths about the personality of Godhead are revealed. But the most complete form of revealing Krishna through the Puranas is the Bhagavad Purana. And somehow here we are. Like Balaram Prasad's question, what's the eligibility we have to get this? What good fortune? Made fortunate by one who has fortune and distributing fortune. And that's protection. Protection from the onslaught of material existence. And without that protection, then when, like this, the message that's here, Hiranyaksha has gold, and he's thinking, gold, high birth, high education, power, I'm invincible. So he thinking like that, the reality is covered, and he does things that foolish and proud people do. Okay, let's see if there's some discussion. Yeah.
Maharaj, I was thinking about how Lord Varaha is tolerating the insults.
Yeah.
And
why?
he was feeling some pain as well, as was discussed in previous classes and verses. And when we look at Krishna's pastimes, when Paundraka insulted him, Krishna just laughed. This guy is foolish, silly. It didn't pierce his heart as it did with Varaha. My question is, Varaha is incarnation of Krishna. So we have different personalities of Godhead. They're different persons. Are they different persons or same person?
Same person.
With different personalities?
No, same person. At different times, the same person can exhibit different features. We do that. The Supreme Lord can do that. Where do we get our tendency from?
Which is different than Balaram. Balaram's a different person than Krishna.
Yeah.
From what I understood yesterday, correct?
Yeah. Coming up is Balaram's appearance day. We're going to be hearing, I'm being asked to give like 8 classes on Balaram. Balaram Tattva. And Balaram Leela, Balaram Katha. So, take the example of Shishupal. Krishna wasn't disturbed, but look what he did. And same with Paundraka. The piercing words, material can't touch, they're all spiritual. Nonetheless, there can be a transcendental emotion exhibited for different reasons and in different ways at different times. It's part of the spontaneity of the Lord enjoying and instructing by His everything, by His words, by His behaviors. In the highest sense, if a living entity can be above duality, the Lord is above duality. How does a living entity become above duality? So He's above duality. So if He's experiencing and expressing anger, it's not material. So at different times He can exhibit different emotion and different speech connected with that emotion. But it's transcendental in all circumstances. And how He chooses, why He chooses this way or that way. Different acharyas can say different things at different times. Spontaneous. Something else? Yes?
Hare Krishna Maharaj. I wanted to focus on this toleration part.
Okay.
And the question is, so in this case, Lord Varaha is allowing Hiranyaksha to vent it out. Every gunk he has, all the emotions that he has of animosity against the Supreme Lord.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes an lack of response by a figure of authority can be dangerous. And sometimes in positions of authority, we may just need to give that space and let the individual vent it out.
You sound like a parent.
In this particular case, although Srila Prabhupada is saying that Lord Varaha allowed for Hiranyaksha to vent it out in order to placate the demigods.
Yes.
But as demigods, again, in this case, it's very clear. Maybe they understand the position of Lord Varaha as a Supreme Personality of Godhead. And they know that, Supreme Personality of Godhead can finish this person as a nobody. And so maybe they are just fine. But if people do have some doubt, they would be anxious in terms of why is this person just taking it in? Is this person capable of, completing this mission here? Can you maybe comment a little bit there?
Sure. I invite you to listen to Radha Raman's part 2 of the discussions that we had in Gitanagari during Memorial Day weekend, because a whole class was dedicated to that question. Why did he delay? Why didn't he just finish? Etc., etc., etc. He's the controller. So there are different factors, and he covers it so nicely. Can you send him that? It's a YouTube link. It's really nice. So there's different reasons, but you hit just a short list, not the comprehensive list. Is it enables the person who is on the receiving end of their prayer and the Lord's reciprocation with their prayer, with the sense of heightening the sense of feeling rescued ultimately, the sense of protection, amplifying, dialing up the urgency and the sense of dependence, which is, it's a secondary emotion, but it can assist the primary emotion. Which is along the line of what we heard yesterday, when Nanda heard from Vasudeva, you better protect your son. He felt something. He felt anxiety. He could. So the Supreme Lord is the controller, and he can do anything at any time. So why allow? Not the same question, but similar question. Why allow Nanda to go through that anxiety? It's an ecstasy. And it's because of his attachment for Krishna. So attachment for Krishna has its ecstasies that sometimes look like misery. So why does the Supreme Lord allow it? Because it stirs the emotion pot of ecstasy. But that doesn't take away the primary, which is the attachment. It amplifies the attachment in the delay of the Lord's action or the Lord's doing something. So he may do something right away. It depends. So does that answer your question a little bit?
The contrast is very stark. You have a personality that is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and then you have another personality who is like the
Demon.
The negative personified. In practical situations, there's going to be shades. Usually, there are on both sides. There's a little bit of shades.
Yes.
And when sometimes inaction can be interpreted as approval. Especially,
it can be taken that way, because that doesn't mean that's the purpose.
Correct. Especially, for people who are in positions of power or authority, the silence could be interpreted as, I'm okay with it.
As you're speaking, I'm thinking parenting again. Aren't there situations when your children speak or whatever it is, and it's like out of bounds, and you don't do anything? It may look to them like, or somebody else that's watching, it's approval. It's okay. But it's not just okay, you're being prudent about what and when and how, and, giving some boundaries. And then the correction may come later at a more calm time, or whatever what's going on as a parent to a child. There is such a thing as negligence, and then it's approval. But there may be silence, and it's not approval. It's just a prudent consideration of time, place, circumstance. So a responsible parent doesn't just ignore, but they understand something about their dependent and how to help their dependent learn the important lessons without confrontation as the only response. So that the trust is there and there's not pushback because you just, this confrontational parent is always confrontational, forget it. I'm going my own way. So that's on a parenting platform, then there's so many living entities. And there's going to be different responses at different times. Going back to the earlier question, it's not just always tolerate, always tolerate. Sometimes there's action, depending. Ultimately, there's justice in the universe, and how it plays out at the discretion of the number one judge, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is very customized. So we don't have that capacity. It's not our service as well. But to try to understand, like the parenting topic, you take a responsibility and you want to do it. Or, within our devotee community, someone does something that's out of bounds. Sometimes it happens. Now, an authority figure, they'd have to have a police whistle and a club in their hand all the time, because there's always something. So when do you say, when do you not say? Just to not say doesn't mean approval. Just, time, place, circumstance. And at the right time, in the right place, in the right circumstance. Now that takes a very capable person to know all those things. But Krishna gives the intelligence to very capable people to know when to be silent and when to smile. And sometimes a smile is all that's needed. Really. I'm dealing with somebody, it's just because it's last 24 hours. Somebody somewhere in another part of the world, they have an issue, a principle-based issue with their authority. And they had an intuitive sense that their authority is a little not a capable authority. But they just rolled with I'm a newer devotee and so I'll be part of the community. But it's gotten to the point where that devotee is, I don't think I want to be in this community anymore because I don't have respect for this authority. Because, fill in the blank, not qualified. It's not just being silent when there should be some discipline, but it's, just not qualified, period. And, abusive to others and abusive to that person in different ways that the person, certainly the authority doesn't think they're being abusive. They don't get it. So now, how do you advise? This is on the receiving end. And it's not, the personality in Godhead, Varaha. It's, a person in a leadership position, which is the context of your question. Because it may look like saying nothing is acknowledgement that it's okay. So this gets into, social interaction with, on the receiving end and on the authority end. How do you conduct yourself? So here's what I did, just sharing. I sent them one of Krishna Leela's favorite messages, if not her favorite message, from Bhaktisiddhanta. That goes something like this. She's got it verbatim. She lives by it. When someone does something that disturbs you or gives you pain, introspect and consider, the language is important, but I don't have the exact language. You remind me and I'll send you the exact language because it's your question. And, I search for it. Krishna Leela recently quoted this. So I searched for it, couldn't find it anywhere. And, she said, her response, I said, where did it come from? She said, I'm computer illiterate. But I had a book, it's probably in my shelf somewhere, 30-some years ago. I read, and I wrote it, and this is the exact language. And I can, I'll look for the book, but I don't know which book. Bhaktisiddhanta book. So the response to this person that's on the receiving end of a leader that's not a capable leader, they have the post, but they're missing some substance. Introspect and rectify yourself. How can I be a better person instead of how come they're not a better person? This is the Vaishnava platform. I remember reading something which I also couldn't later find. Bhaktisiddhanta said, don't find fault in others, for by doing so, you're disclosing that your own heart is honeycombed with the very same fault. Meaning, if someone is completely faultless, they don't find fault. I'm finding fault because my heart is honeycombed with that fault. I see it. That's Bhaktisiddhanta. It's not like all circumstances mean like that, but on the receiving end, it's not just if there's silence, it means it's approval. It can mean a number of things. And from the position of the subordinate to the one who's in the authority position, make it our business to make our own lives pure, rather than, the example of what a person of character should be. But, I'm going a little bit afield from what your question is, but these are practical considerations in everyday interactions with peers and superiors and subordinates. So how do you decide when you should speak something and when you should be silent? If both are possible options, is there a time to be silent? Is there a time to say something? It takes intelligence. That's super soul. And super soul gives intelligence to persons who want to please him, who want to come to him. So that's where our attention should go. We have a lot of work to do. Not just the authority figures in our life. Doesn't mean that the person can't see what's what, but they don't get stuck and then keep testing the waters to see what I can get away with and not be corrected by the authority. That's silly. It's a misbehaving child. And they'll push. So how to help that misbehaving child? It's not always have a stick in your hand. And at least show the stick. If you don't, you whack them. Show the stick. It's not always show the stick. Depends. Long term, something, but it can be done very gently and softly. It doesn't have to be done with a stick. The right time, the right circumstance. So, it takes intelligence. Take Krishna consciousness. On this side, anyone? I see two hands.
Hare Krishna, Guru Maharaj. I found the sentence a little confusing, so I'm seeking clarification from the purport.
Okay.
Where it says that while the demon was deriding the Lord with ill words, but the Lord tolerated him to please the demigods. So I was thinking how when somebody speaks ill words to the Lord could be pleasing to the demigods.
He could please the demigods by chopping him. That's an option. And he chose not to do that. So he could please the demigods in the manner of this barking dog. Woof woof. That's another. Nothing to worry about. You follow? It's similar to the verse yesterday where Shukadeva was speaking to Maharaj Pariksit. Don't worry. Wherever Krishna is there, and the name of Krishna is there, everything's going to be all right. So it was reassuring the demigods, everything is all right, nothing to worry about. He could have done something else, he could have done 10 other things. But that's just an explanation of why he didn't respond. Insignificant. Now, next verse, he's going to speak something.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. I have a question. I was talking to my son, and I was telling him about, like, how about the emotions, like whatever emotions we have here, the same emotions are there in the spiritual world also, and more intensified. Like love is more intensified for Krishna, anxieties and all those things. So he said that means anger is also very intensified, because the more
What's the word, sensitized? Anger is also...
He said like anger is also intensified over there.
Intensified?
Yeah.
Intensified, okay.
So I didn't know how to answer that, because he was saying that the more we love someone, or more we are attached, then more angry we get.
Well, then there's spiritual and material. That's your answer to your son. Is there such a thing as material anger? Yes. Is there such a thing as spiritual anger? Yes. How are they different? Anger is the result of an expectation that isn't met. So you become angry, frustrated and angry. And then the obstacle that prevents you from achieving what you want, anger goes to that which caused the outcome to not happen. You feel anger towards the instrument, the person or circumstance or whatever. And then there's transcendental. Can you think you can communicate that to your son? Can you want to hear an example of transcendental anger?
Yeah, I gave him the example of Hanuman. And he said, I said that was control. He said, Mama, that was control. He burned the whole Lanka. So.
Yeah. But he was purposeful. Don't mess with Ram. You're messing with Ram by taking Sita. It's not the whole of Lanka, but it's that fellow. So there's consequences of messing with Ram. And he was joyful in doing all of what he did. But it was anger, but it was a joyful anger. It was a transcendental anger with a purpose. So that's a nice example. Good for your son. There's a skill or an art in training, whether it's children or anyone, others. And it's not just like defeating their position so you won and they lost. It's education as a parent to a child or to anyone and anyone else is help the person to see the principle, and then to the degree they can see the principle, how does a principle apply in the scriptural example and then in your life's example. It takes some time. Education takes time. But that's a duty. It's a function of guiding someone, whether parent or whatever the relationship is.
Thank you.
Okay. Last question.
Maharaj, my husband sent me the quote that he thinks you're referring to from Bhaktisiddhanta. From Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur.
You found it?
He found it. It says, when faults in others misguide and delude you,
Yes.
have patience, introspect, find faults in yourself. Know that others cannot harm you unless you harm yourself.
Yeah, so where'd you find it?
Guru Maharaj, do you remember you made a presentation in Sunday Feast on Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur here in Naperville about...
Yeah, but I searched for where did that come from, and I couldn't find where it came from.
Okay.
That was the question.
I don't know. He's at work.
Yeah, when Krishna Lila responded the way that Krishna Lila responded, I was remembering that book as well. It's a book of Bhaktisiddhanta's sayings. I forget what the title of the book is. So I'm not saying that she misquoted him, but I was just asking her, where's it from? Because online and in Vedabase, and even bells and whistles Vedabase, I couldn't find it. I'm not doubting. I just, would like to speak with authority. So that way back when, I put it in some presentation I made because I read it, but I couldn't remember where I read it. So I was just asking, where's it from? And her answer was what her answer was. I'm not computer literate, but I remember reading it in a book. I didn't say, can you look for the book? But it exists, okay?
And then a question, Guru Maharaj, I have is, in the purport, Prabhupada says, the demon's derision of the Lord was just like the barking of dogs. The Lord did not care about it. So it seems that within this Leela, the Lord moves through different emotions.
Yes.
2-3 verses ago, we hear that he feels pain.
Yeah.
And now he's not caring about it.
And then the next verse, he's going to say something about it. So it's quite fluid. No, then comes, Mr. Yardstick and says, wait a minute, here it says this, then it says that, then it says something else. What's going on? And the answer is it's quite fluid. Emotions move in life, and the Supreme Lord has different purposes at different times. He's not emotionless. He's in full control of his emotions, and there's purposefulness in each of the emotions. Next.
On this point, Guru Maharaj, in NVC, we read this definition of emotion is energy in motion. So it's...
Okay, emotion, okay. Srila Prabhupada ki, Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki.